So the lens that I would want you guys to think through is when you're at home. So you'll see we'll be in touch with a lot of clients who are, they have a tax return that they're filing together, and maybe you have income that's in that, maybe you're making like $100,000 up to $400,000 a year. That puts you in the 22 to 24% tax bracket. Now, if you're making like $250,000 as a household, you have room of up to $150,000 of conversion for Roth. I'm not saying you would do that much, but there's a lot of room for you to convert. So and depending on the tax location that you already have, meaning one of the things we look at on the retirement quiz that you guys can take if you want to, is we just look at how much do you have in taxable, how much do you have in pre-retirement or retirement, like 401ks, IRAs, and how much do you have in Roth. And so if you come in and it's all in 401k, well, in pre-tax, you may want to look to do some conversions there along the way to help move that around a little bit. So one of the things we'd look at is just look at your tax return and go look at your income and go, oh, you're in the just the beginning of the 24% bracket. We have a lot of room here to do conversions. We certainly don't want to make you go up in bracket, potentially up into the 32% bracket. One of the things we want to look at is what's the relative size of your investments today? What do we think is reasonable for the growth of those assets? What are they going to be worth when you reach said age 75? And what bracket's that going to push you into based on just the baseline of us knowing who you are today? If it's going to push you into a higher bracket, Roth conversions are going to make a lot of sense. So we're going to look to do that. The thing that Nick was stealing my thunder on are these things called ACA subsidies. So when you retire and you start getting Medicare, you have to pay this IRMA tax, or pardon me, I'm actually saying it wrong. I'm getting ahead of myself right now. Two things that we look at. I'm stealing his thunder. No, the ACA subsidy is that when you retire, let's say you retire before 65, and you can have this Affordable Care Act subsidy for your health care. Well, when we go do these Roth conversions, it takes away that subsidy, which really costs you a lot more. So we don't necessarily want to do that in those gap years if that's something that you have going on. So we just want to be really mindful of that. So just think of it as like every year looking at the rungs that are coming for you and seeing like, oh, right now, if I were to do stuff, I have to pay that. I'm paying the same tax rate now that I would in the future, but it won't hurt me that much. Okay, cool. Now, if we go do it once we're retired and we're still in those ACA years, what effect's that going to have? We run the calculation on that and we see what's that going to cost you. Then once you hit 65 and on, Nick will touch more on that in a moment and the things that we think about there. But all in all, we just look at it every single year and just look at, does it make sense to do a conversion? And for a lot of people, it does.
Yeah. And I call this the eating your vegetables, right? It doesn't feel great, but this is where we have to connect to future you and coming back to like what is essential, what is most important in your plan.
Sure.
Because a lot of times we're confronted with that reality of, do I really feel like writing the check to an IRS today or taking on my family on vacation, right? And it's a trade-off. And these are conversations we have. But I could say, and Scott confidently say as well, if we fast forward from conversations we've had with clients that are in their 50s or 60s, to your point, that trade-off of, ooh, this is that window to do the Roth conversion now that I'm retired, but I now lose my health insurance. And I wish I would have done it sooner. So this is why it's so important each year to be able to look at, to your point, of what rung on the ladder are you actually on? Is there room left? And understanding, I use the sports analogy, skating to where the puck's going, saying, hey, this would be actually a really good opportunity to do this now.